Stolen Generations, produced by Shemara.
I would not tell lies to you, like the promises they did not keep, and how they fenced us in like sheep, said to us, come take our hand, set us up on mission land, told us to read, to write and pray. Then they took the children away, took the children away, the children away. Snatched from their mother's breast, said this is for the best, took them away. The welfare and the policeman said you've got to understand, we'll give to them what you can't give. Teach them how to really live. Teach them how to live, they said. Humiliated them instead. Taught them that and taught them this, and others taught them prejudice. You took the children away, the children away, breaking our mother's heart, tearing us all apart, took them away.
Define Stolen Generations. The term stolen generations is used for Aboriginal children who were forcibly taken away from their families between 1870 and 1980. Generations is used in plural form because this happened for a long period of time. Explain what the white people did to the children. The stolen children were either raised on missions or by foster parents. They were severely punished when they were caught talking to their in their Aboriginal language. Some children had very little or no education. Girls were trained to be domestic servants and boys were trained to be stockmen. Many tried to run away, but few succeeded. Many children never saw their parents again.
We were each handed a pair of pajamas with a number Mr. Borland had given us earlier printed on the pocket, and a shirt and a pair of shorts also. I was number 33. Not Bill, not even Simon, just number 33.
Determine why the white people took the Aboriginal children. In taking the Aboriginal children, white people stole Aboriginal people's future, including language, tradition, knowledge, dances, and spirituality. White people hoped to end Aboriginal culture in a short time and get rid of the Aboriginals. In the early 1900s, white people thought that in 3 generations, Aboriginals would have been bred out when they had children with white people.
It's my presumption for many years that we girls would grow up and marry nice white boys. Our children would be fairer, and then they would grow up and marry white people again, and eventually the colour would die out. That was the original plan.
Another reason they took the children was because they thought that Aboriginal parents would neglect their children. There is evidence, though, that Aboriginals were hungry and starving because they weren't paid their full wages they were owed.
I grew up feeling alone, a black girl in a white world.
Identify who the Aboriginals are. Aboriginals are the original inhabitants of Australia. They have been around for about 40,000 years. During this time, they have developed lots of tools, weapons, and instruments, such as the spear thrower, returning boomerang, didgeridoo, uraki, bull roarer, hunting spears, gum weave, clapsticks, shields, and clubs. The Aboriginal women in the tribe made the clothing and gathered the food, such as berries, seeds, nuts, yams, tubers, and wishity grums. The Aboriginal men in the tribe would do the hunting, make the equipment, and build the shelters. The elders would tell stories to the children and teach the older boys how to play the didgeridoo and other instruments.
Imagine and describe what it would feel like to be one of those children who were taken. It would feel scary and frightening to be taken away from your family. You would feel scared, worried, insecure, frightened, unsure, unsafe, unhappy, sad, depressed, confused, neglected, terrified, and much more. If you were one of those children, you would feel like it was really unfair and racist.
It was a nightmare, a place of misery and torture. I was terrified.
Differentiate the European settlers and the Aboriginal people. There are heaps of differences between Aborigines and Europeans, such as skin color, language, tradition, activities, habits, knowledge, and clothing. Aboriginals lived in 300 clans and spoke 700 different languages. The European settlers didn't have clans and they only spoke one language, English. The most obvious difference, Aboriginals had dark skin and the Europeans had white. The European settlers had proper clothes and were clean, while the Aboriginals didn't have proper clothing. Aboriginals knew how to survive in Australia. They knew all about the native animals and plants. They knew what was edible and they knew what wasn't. The European settlers, on the other hand, didn't know anything about Australia. Give an example of an Aboriginal child who was stolen.
It was winter in 1957, 7 o'clock in the morning. Lenny, my youngest brother, was sitting on the floor eating. My other brother and I were half asleep. We were waiting for our mother to put Vegemite on our bread before we got dressed for school. Someone knocked on the door. My mother didn't answer it. The knocking got louder and louder. Finally, my mother opened the door and talked to 3 men. I couldn't hear what they were saying. Then 3 men entered the room. A tall man in a suit ordered my mother to pick up Lenny and give him to me. My mother handed him to me. My mother screamed and sobbed uncontrollably. The men took no notice. They forced my brothers and me into a car. My mother ran onto the road, fell on her knees and screamed. We looked back as the car drove off to see her hammering her fist into the ground. Tears were streaming down her face.
Bill Simon was 10 years old when he was taken to Kinchela Boys' School, where he remained for 17 years. When Bill Simon was in his 30s, he finally met his mother again, but it was too late. His mother, who was remarried and had other children, rejected him. Imagine what your life would be like if you were an Aboriginal who was stolen.
I'm Aboriginal and I am 15 years old. I'm a domestic servant for a white Gazer family. Today was horrible. I woke up early in the morning and prepared cereal breakfast for the family. When the mother woke up and saw that I had made cereal, she screamed at me. I want toast and you have made cereal. She slapped me across my face several times. Her nails left scraping marks on my cheek. Later, I was walking home from the barn carrying a bucket of milk. I accidentally spilled the milk on the floor. The father of the family yelled at me, "Tara, get over here!" He had some wire in his hand and the next minute he whipped me more and bounced me across my legs. I tried to protect myself, but he bounced me even more. Later in the afternoon, he called me out. "Tara, you didn't clean the room properly." I went over to the room and he took a cane and whacked me several times. I was crying. I was very careful that I did everything right. Then for no reason at all, the 2 older girls started pushing me, pulling my hair, slapping me and beating me up. I got some really bad scratches and bleeding marks on my skin. It was outrageous. I had to work through the night until around 12 a.m. I finally got some sleep after a long and painful day. I expect tomorrow will be even more harder.
Demonstrate how it would look like to forcefully take a child. Estimate how many children were stolen. Only a few records of stolen children were kept. Some were destroyed or just lost. Numbers can only be roughly estimated. It is estimated that between 1883 In 1969, more than 6,200 children were stolen in New South Wales alone. A 1994 survey by the Australian Bureau of Statistics stated that 10% of Aboriginal people aged over 25 had been stolen from their families.
Thank you for watching.
I hope you enjoyed.
The end.